In this presentation, you're going to get some great advice on implementing safety differently into your organisation. Hello and welcome to our ongoing series of business improvement presentations presented by Mango. My name's Craig Thornton and I present these sessions on all things to do with business improvement, compliance and QHSE. So welcome, gentlemen. So today we have Steve Harvey and Tony McConaughey from Queensland Urban Utilities to discuss how they implemented safety differently into their organisation. So hopefully this is a warts and all presentation, what works and what doesn't. So over to you, Steve and Tony. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Good on you. Yeah, hopefully you guys will enjoy this stuff. It's certainly we're having a lot of fun doing it. Yeah, we can certainly we'll have a good chat around what we've been up to. So just on this first slide here, we conducted a survey in 2018 asking our people what was the most frustrating thing that urban utilities made you do in the name of safety. So this got like a massive response, an absolutely massive response. So these are all real quotes from our people working in our business. So as you can probably see, like we've had to sort of trim some of those quotes as well, but like we had a pretty fragmented relationship with the organisation, so it really was time for a change. But blame and punishment was just really the norm when something went wrong. There was just no critical thinking around when it came to investigations, and most of the time investigations weren't really done, they were poorly done, and they certainly didn't go past human error as a root cause. So what we also were discovering was the teams at the pointy end who are doing the work would use language around being written up for the tiniest of breaches. So when the safety team were going to sites, there was no conversations around high-risk tasks. So the dialogue that we would normally have with those guys would be around rolling up sleeves on our shirts, or wearing hard hats on sites when there was no overhead hazards. But one thing one of the guys said to me when I was out in the fields, when they're talking about working in water and sewage, he said to me, "Have you ever tried washing your dishes with your sleeves rolled up?" And I thought, yeah, that totally makes sense. Some of the other things that we sort of looked at as well is like our leaders were incentivized to report hazards. So we were really missing out on some of this valuable operational intelligence. As you can imagine, the system was filled up with like banana peels and low quantity risks. So if there's anything you can take from this is what I know for certain, in my opinion, is that if you're incentivizing hazard reporting, you're just going to get bad analytics. And I can tell you that's what we were getting for sure. Over to you, Tony.
Yeah, so I'll just add to that hazard share that you've done there. So we were following the Heinrich triangle, I guess, methodology or approach to hazards. So we were facing the belief that the more hazards and the more near misses we put in, the safer our people would be, and I guess the less people we will seriously injure or kill. But to Steve's point, we were driving a ridiculous barrage of low level hazards, and that were just sort of swamping our system up. So basically, we found ourselves in a position where we needed to look at doing something a little bit differently. We had to try and build a case for change. We had to do some really sort of heavy stakeholder engagement to truly sort of understand from our executive, from our CEO, and from the sharp end, from the people that do the work, what are some of the challenges? What are the things that get in the way of doing normal work? And what are some of the things that are actually working really well for you that we can sort of continue to keep leveraging off? So we went on a sort of a several month discovery sort of spree to really unpack what is the safety climate like at Urban Utilities, and using that voice to help sort of propel something a little bit different moving forward. We're really sort of fortunate to, I guess, our leader, Kim Bancroft, the Health and Safety Manager, as we moved into that design and implement phase, we're really fortunate to design a wonderful educational program around safety too, which we branded as safe.simple. So it was a 4-day safety leadership program that was designed purely around a lot of the work that sort of Eric Holnagel, that sort of Dave Proven, Sydney Decker, and many other sort of thought leaders in this space. We sort of piggybacked off a lot of their research and designed what's been a really effective program. We've now taken close to 300 leaders and HSRs in our organisation through this program, and we've now sort of moved across into our delivery partners as well, and we've taken approximately 60 delivery partners through Safe Simple now as well. So it's been a wonderful process of it's all well and good for the safety team to want to approach safety too, but you need to be out there and educating and providing awareness, I guess, to the operational groups around what is this safety 2 thing? What does this mean for us, and how do we sort of challenge our thinking around moving into this space? The other thing that sort of partnered in with Safe Simple was the development of our health and safety strategy. So it was really critical to get that sign off for the new direction from our board and from the CEO. A lot of that was successful purely based on the fact that we used evidence and research to help inform the change. So we built a strong case around a lot of the things that we were doing were not based on sort of science. They weren't based on any research that was backing that was an effective way to sort of approach the health and safety of our people. So we used research and evidence from those people, from Dave Proven, from Eric Holnagel, from Sydney Decker, to help influence and encourage change at that senior level. So some of the things that we're going to sort of talk about today as we sort of moved into these changes, and we really want to sort of share with you some of the specific things that we've done to actually make safety 2 stick in an organisation. So we've kind of moved into this sort of habituate phase now, where we're really embedding some of these processes. Some of them are just the way that we think and view work and other humans. But some of these things we want to share with you today around critical control work insights that we've implemented and embedded, learning teams, some safety pulse dashboards and different measures that we've put in place, our decluttering efforts that we've done with our safety management system. So really trying to get away from that bureaucratic health and safety approach that was bogging us down previously. A little bit about our restorative culture and just some of those measurements as well around the safety 2 world and some of those changes that we've made. So some of those outcomes that we're chasing there, so really creating that learning culture, engaging heavily with the sharp end, so the people at the front line that do the work, and really sort of actually chopping our safety management system to pieces and really sort of taking it from that bloated system into something that's much more aligned to what's actually happening out at site, and then measuring differently as well. Steve, anything you want to add on that?
Can I just pause you there, Stephen, just to remind people that are on live, please ask your questions. Just a question from Steve. Steve, we are recording this session, so you'll be able to watch it back and share it with your colleagues. So back to you, Steve. Just a quick reminder to people, please ask your questions now. So go for it, Steve.
Yeah, no, I was just going to, Tony, you sort of summed that up really, really well there. Like Safe Simple is a really amazing bespoke training program that we have. It gets delivered by a guy called Jonathan Lincoln as well. So he's a pretty leading thinker in this space also. So we absolutely didn't mess around. We got the leading thinkers in to help us piece this work together. Look at the next slide. And we wanted to share this with you, just to sort of, we don't normally present this out, but we've had some mixed responses to it. So this is our health and safety policy. As you can see, it's a cartoon. I think it's totally different to what you would sort of normally see in any organisation, and we really loved it. We sort of felt that it was sort of reflecting our safety values, which is making safety fun and interesting. And it's like, I know, who'd have thought it, trying to make safety fun, right? But the policy included everything that you would normally see in the policies for sure, and it included a commitment to people and striving towards best practice, as well as we've got a little nod to a restorative culture as well when things go wrong. But the policy just didn't take off as well as we'd hoped. People were a bit apathetic about it. But for me, it's probably the only safety policy that I've read right through more than once, to be honest. And I'd love to hear what people think of this on the line. Some people just say, "Oh, we're not taking safety seriously." You know, that's you shouldn't present policies like that. But like I say, Craig, we absolutely loved it. I still love it. So we might try and do something a bit different next time when it comes to reviewing it.
Why do you think people were apathetic, even though you've done it in a fun, engaging cartoon like? Well,
maybe people are just not used to seeing this stuff, particularly in safety. That was my whole feeling on it. I was super enthusiastic, super excited when this came through. I was like, people are going to love this. People are going to think this is the greatest thing that they've ever seen, and it just hasn't taken off. Actually, what we did do, Craig, is we created another policy to sit in behind it. So we had the cartoon policy, then we had this other sort of official looking policy, and it seems to me that most people prefer to use the official looking policy. Maybe they're just scared to rock the boat. I know that when I go to the depots, I'm like, where's your policy? Not that policy, the other policy, the one that people will read. So yeah, so I'd love to hear what people, normally we don't share this slide, but I thought it'd be good for your audience to have a look at it, and I'd really like to know what they think about it for sure.
Okay, so people in the comments there, can you, on the comments on the GoToWebinar application, just what do you think of a cartoon? I've never seen anything like this ever. I've never seen a cartoon policy on anything. No. So I guess you're right. No one's used to this sort of thing. I think it's fantastic because you shared these slides a couple of days ago. I thought it's brilliant. Yeah. But if you're not getting engagement, then really it's not going to work. But
yeah, like Craig, honestly, it's the only policy that I will consistently read it every time. So I'll have a look at it and have a great chuckle at it. But it's got a great message, and we're happy to share that with people if they want to see it. You know, it doesn't have a fluffy message. It really talks about the things that an ordinary policy would talk to.
So Shane's comment was there a certain level of the business that accepted this policy, or?
Oh, it got endorsed by the CEO. So it's like. Yeah,
right.
We don't do anything in this organisation. We can't do anything without endorsement of the CEO level and the executive level. So yeah, they know everything that we're doing.
Right. Another interesting comment from Steve was, I'm not sure the pointy end would ever see safety as fun, but your cartoon policy is a great idea to change the way you present policy. Keep trying different things, challenge the status quo. I guess that's the point. That's the most important thing.
I think Tony and I would probably disagree with Steve there, actually. It's, like I say, it's one of my big values when I do safety. Like, if it's not, you often hear me say in the office to Kim and the other guys here, if it's not fun, I just don't want to be part of it. So we'll make it fun. We make a toolbox talks. Like, I'm a frequent attender of toolbox talks, and I always try and have some element of even some storytelling element and trying to make fun out of that too, but still having a serious message if we need to have it. But yeah, like I think traditionally safety is seen as like a bit conservative. So I'm happy to sort of change that paradigm for sure anyway.
Right. So Jason says can't read it all, but the idea, but really likes the idea and the concept. Irania says great way to bring a policy to life. And a great visual to engage people. Nobody reads policies really, so this makes people take notice. A fantastic idea. So, and then Jason, another Jason, I like the fact that you could break the blocks down into individual slides when presenting it, rather than a stream of big long text. So, I like that bit as well.
Yeah, for the people that can't see it, we'll be happy to share it if they want to reach out to us. Absolutely happy to share.
Well, certainly the policy. They'll be able to see it on the slides when I send it as part of the email, so be able to read it then. Yeah. Very good. Carry on. Thanks, gents.
All right. So, look, I can't overstate how important this safe, simple leadership program was to us at Urban Utilities. we needed to create an opportunity for people to kind of hear what this safety 2 thing is. And we needed to give people an opportunity to essentially test their own thinking and to debate, I guess, their perspective and their point of view on, I guess, all of their previous thinking and their biases, I guess, around their approach to health and safety. So we needed to create that space to partly educate and partly sort of influence our leadership group to sort of really test themselves, because we really sort of set the tone early on that this is not something that we have been doing previously. This is something new. So we really want you to open yourself up to exploring what this looks like. So it's kind of part about the brain and how that works and how you I guess view others and how you view how work gets done. And then it's also part around a lot of the safety 2, I guess, theory that's out there. As I said before, Todd Conklin, Drew Ray, Dave Proven, Holnagel, Decker, etc. So we pulled apart all of the research to help sort of design this sort of bespoke program. And as I said, we're getting some really good, I guess, wins from this. But it's designed around the 3 principles around safety differently. So principle 1, accepting people as complex and then empowering them as the solution. So that's really about engaging heavily with the sharp end and designing things with them. So co-creation of the new safety management system with them. They are the experts, and so they help to, I guess, design that work as imagined piece. Principle 2 tries to really shift the dial. So principle 2 being around learning from what goes right. So we're really trying to turn the dial on health and safety to not just getting obsessed about honing in on when something goes wrong. So traditional safety tends to get all hyped up and really overzealous and excited when something goes wrong, and they throw the kitchen sink at a root cause analysis process to try and overanalyze what's happened just to those 0.5% of the time that things go wrong. So we're really trying to turn the dial around. Well, we want to learn about normal work. We want to learn about the kind of high risk activities that our people do. And we do that through the introduction of this work insights approach. So this is one of the kind of marquee products as such that we've sort of pushed into the business, where we're really wanting to study high risk normal work. So we really want to understand that kind of work as done line. We're not concerned about work as imagined when we're doing these insights. We really want to unpack it and understand the story from the worker and help shape our system against that. So it's really heavily angled towards that sharp end. We're going to touch a bit more on that in a minute, so I won't spend too much time on that. But principle 3 is that safety is an ethical responsibility. So really trying to move away from that real sort of traditional administrative bureaucracy, the health and safety world going completely mad and bonkers around the introduction of too much paperwork. So we're going to talk a little bit around how easy it is to lose control of your work as imagined and your system becoming overly bloated and actually sort of exposing yourself even further as an organisation. So really the products that we're pushing here are the learning teams approach, so the introduction of learning teams into our organisation, and I'll touch on that a little bit further down the slide deck, and really about the decluttering piece. So how do we focus on the safety of work rather than safety work? So how do we lighten this backpack that we've really overloaded, and how do we get rid of the stuff that isn't adding value to the sharp end? What are the things that are helping them do their work in a safe manner? So really getting rid of that clutter, all done with that human-centered mindset. So everything's done with those people that have the tools in their hand, that are in the trenches, that are fixing our piping, that are out there working on our treatment plants. It is all about them. It's not to do with that workers imagined corporate space in this world. So really, just I guess safe, simple. I absolutely love it. It's been an incredible program of work. Been super successful. I've got quite a bit of bias towards it, but I think it's just been a wonderful experience, and the impact that it's having. The pre and post measures that we've got around the program have all been really statistically significant in terms of the dial that it's shifted for participants. So I really can't talk highly enough about it. And as I said, we're happy to sort of share this little infographic that we've pulled together as well. Steve, over to you, mate.
Yeah, I was just reflecting back on that last one, Tony, there, in terms of principle 2. You know, like we can take this poster out to the fields and we can sort of explain to the guys in easy terms about their place in here, particularly around the pointy stick at the bottom. You know, you can talk about, this is you're at the sharp end. You know, you guys have to adapt, you have to continuously innovate to get your work done. And then I would always say, like, I'm here at the blunt end. And it's just like, that diagram is just perfect to illustrate how work actually happens. Yeah, just stick next slide on, Tony.
I'll just pause you there. Just, gents, a couple of questions. So Donma wants to know, are we allowed to use those posters in the workplace? Tony, you mentioned that you're keen to share those. So are they posters or?
Yeah, we've got we've created sort of core flute posters around them and digital versions, and so yeah, we've got these things on our Urban Utilities website. So happy to share these around post this webinar.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we'll be wanting cyber beers though, Craig. Like,
I'll see what I can do. And Tony was just wanting to know, can you give us some concrete examples on what safety elements go into the declutter? So I'm sure you're going to talk about that later, maybe, Steve.
We're just about to jump into that, actually.
Okay. Oh, perfect timing. Into it, Steve.
Yeah. So decluttering is probably the sort of type of organisation that we are. Like, we definitely have lots of process and lots of procedures. Basically, like, decluttering is obviously defined by the accumulation of safety procedures, documents, roles and activities that are performed in the name of safety. You've probably seen all the work that Dave Proven and Drew Ray's been doing. You know, like, those guys are really leading the way in that space. But we know they don't contribute really in any way to how safety is done. So obviously over here in Australia, we've got like a massive problem here. You know, the red tape is really rife. So we like these self-imposed rules, regulations, processes and procedures are really stifle innovation, really, I would sort of say. And, you know, I don't think they make any difference. I've got like a couple of stats here that I found around in Australia. There's like 14.3 billion being spent on critically important rules. And then there's an additional 85 billion being wasted on unimportant, non-essential, non-regulated compliance-based rules, which is quite astounding. It's just incredible. So, like, I'm definitely going to make the assumption that there's people in this webinar who really have the challenge with paperwork too. That's why I'm really inspired with the stuff that Craig does. It's really awesome. So, like, I know I've certainly been guilty of it, adding additional safety activities, additional process, like particularly after like an ICAM or something, you would say, oh, the procedure's wrong, let's add some steps in the procedure, let's change the sort or whatever. What the trusty checklists, I'm now getting to the stage where I really am critical of them, and if anyone mentions to me that they're going to do it, then I will challenge them for sure. So what we found at Urban Utilities is when we reviewed the system, there was honestly thousands of documents, thousands of them, and there was like 200 different checklists, in which most weren't used. So you would take them, we would go out with these documents to the field and say, right, what do you know about this? Like, oh yeah, I remember that from like Brisbane Water days or from days gone by. So we thought, right, we'll highlight them, we'll cut them down. So we really chopped into anything that wasn't critical, that we didn't need to have. So they were gone. But obviously we had to make sure that they had a purpose. So, all right, so that was stuff like checklists. One good example is we had the guys had an excavation checklist that they had to complete after 1 metre entry. Now, obviously, the code calls it out, saying it's like 1.5. I think in New Zealand that you guys actually have to notify the division over there if you go quite deep. So, like, the guys just weren't using it. They were saying, well, we don't need to, like, we've got this under control. So that was one of those that was highlighted for removal. I mean, we took it out. All right, but what we found though is as we were removing documents, people were putting them back in, just in a different format. So like safety checklists and processes, it's like a safety comfort blanket. For some reason, people really take them, and the biggest myth of all, the more signatures, the better. So we had a pre-start document that required 3 signatures before you even started talking about risk, which I just find incredible. So that's gone. We got rid of that as well. So yeah, look, it was a really big problem for us, and one of the big feedback that we got during that survey in 2018 was like the paperwork that we have to do is quite astounding, pre-start stuff. So the guys were getting really quite frustrated and very cynical about any safety activity that came their way. In terms of decluttering for people at the pointy end, like I think one of the things that I'm probably most proud of is we took our swims and really critically looked at them. We thought, what needs is there for that? What do the guys actually need when they're doing this work? So as you can imagine, like the swims had like the risk matrices on them, they had reference documents, they had like all sorts of things that weren't benefits to the work. So we took all that away and just stuck with the task and stuck with the controls. So we had in our swim. So they went from like being 7-8 pages down to 1 and even 2 pages. And we got the lads who done the work to design these as well. So I just put them together. We got everyone in a room and said what needs to be here, what's the non-negotiables when it comes to putting this work in. So we tried to create like a freedom within a framework. I don't know if you've heard that term before when we put the swims together. But they came out really well. The guys, like I'm not going to say that they use them for every single job, but they certainly are aware of them now and they know that they've been designed with their best interests at heart. We changed the language in them too. Like the previous swims, I could tell they were written by safety people because some of the language in them was basically written in case we got prosecuted or something like that. That's, there's quite difficult language. One example was get prescribed information for dial before you dig. And I was like, what does that mean? Just get the dials. So we changed it. We really did make it easy for those guys to use. Like I suppose some of the things that we did know that the guys absolutely hated the pre-start paperwork, and we'll have a bit of a chat about that later on as well. So like I don't know if you've got anything to add, Tony, in terms of decluttering.
Steve, I'll just add decluttering also sometimes results in more rigor around a process, so it hasn't always resulted in the reduction of something. So an example would be we had a gap around our approach to managing fatigue. So we used the voice of the worker to help actually design an advanced fatigue management framework that kind of helps support them in managing that risk around fatigue. So we've got a much more rigor around the way that we assess fatigue risk in the work that we do now than what we sort of previously had in place. But in a minute, we will just share with you, I guess, in a little bit more detail, I guess one of the better examples around what we've decluttered as well. I guess in order to kind of work out what is clutter and what isn't clutter, a really good model that's out there that Dave Proven and Drew Ray developed is around this safety work and safety of work model. So it really gets you to sort of think about what are the things that we're doing in the name of safety, and what sort of buckets do they come underneath in this particular model. And I'll just give you a brief sort of descriptor around what these look like. So essentially, Proven and Ray are trying to get people to move across to the right-hand side of this graphic that you see in front of you. They really want you to invest the time in that operational activity, the safety of work, but whilst also acknowledging that we still do need to do pieces of work and we need effort in those other areas, but just trying to, I guess, minimize those where we can. So social safety, for all of you safety folk out there, you would be well aware of the social safety stuff. So this is things like safety slogans such as zero harm, putting effort into those, safety programs, those wonderful safety shares that people come up with at the start of toolbox talks and meetings that add very little value 99% of the time. It's the things that we do to sort of make each other feel better, a bit of a slap on the back moment around, yeah, we're doing safety, everyone, yippee. But that social safety piece. The demonstrated safety stuff it's out of control in the safety world, the demonstrated safety piece. This is the one that really needs to get curtailed in. This is the things that you do to sort of prove that you are doing safety. So this is all of the paperwork that you get your workers to fill in. These are the monthly reporting that gets out of control in the health and safety world. All of the things that you're showing internal and external people that, hey, look at us, we're doing safety, so sort of leave us alone. The administrative safety piece, so sort of talking about all the stuff that's required by legislation, but also there's a lot of sort of self-imposed administrative work that goes on into the health and safety space, and that's not necessarily adding value to the people at the sharp end. Now you can see a bit of a line there between administrative safety and now physical safety. So physical safety is actually starting to cross over into the realms of helping out frontline workers. So we're talking about things like barriers around a trench, or extra protective equipment to undertake confined space work. So we're talking about actual physical stuff to help the people do the work. Now the operational activities, that safety of work stuff, is really honing in on the actual work that our people are doing out there, and looking at ways that we can, well, potentially, engineer out things, actually sort of honing in on what are some of the improvements we can do to help ensure that we're kind of removing risk from the guys at the front line. So really trying to invest in that kind of physical safety and operational activity. So the actual steps that the lads and the girls out there are following when they're doing their work. So we use this model to try and sort of place things underneath each of those 5 buckets and really try and reduce some of the stuff on the left-hand side and ramp up on that right-hand side. Steve, do you want to have a little chat around the chat?
The chat, yeah. So this is another, I've just got some notes here because it's such a big job for us. So what we had is basically the equivalent of like a Take 5 process. So again, as part of our survey, the lads who work in the front line were just saying, like, this thing is a complete waste of time. It offers nothing. They absolutely hate it, and like I said, needed a lot of signatures before you could even start talking about risk. So we conducted some insights into what the use of this thing was. So what we found was that people would complete them, like if they did complete them, they would either complete them like halfway through the job or at the end of the job, or when someone like me was turning up to site, and they were only doing them really because they were forced to do them. So we even discovered that the guys were changing dates and things like that. So it presented a bit of a challenge for the business. So what was happening, the guys were doing them in the truck and then going to the job and actually talking about the job. So we picked up on that. We really did. We thought, right, okay, well, how can we make this transition easier? And like, there was a few people who were going to go, well, like, taking away paperwork, this is a big deal. So like, basically, what the guys are also telling us, like, this is just an arse covering document, and it's not our arses you're covering. So we took that on board, we took it back to the business. We brought one of our HSRs into like an executive meeting, and I asked him to explain what the RAP was all about. And Angus sort of made it quite clear that it wasn't being used with the intent it should have been used, and probably when it was designed. So the board or the SSG group, they endorsed the removal of it. So that left us with a lot of work to do. So yeah, so we got guys like Michael Tuma involved. He's obviously quite a famous safety lawyer in Australia. If you don't know him, look him up. Definitely, he does some great work. His books are fantastic.
Pause there. He's been on one of my webinars. So.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
gee,
nice.
I'll have to look at this a bit. Yeah, and he's a great guy too. We always, again, he's one of these, we just have a great fun when we talk to him. He's super smart. He certainly, and it's like Greg as well. You know, like when you read Greg stuff, it's like, yeah, this is what we want. So we had to be really careful when we were removing this document. So what we'd done was we ran a competition around what we could call this new Take 5 process. So one of the guys, we called it the chat. I had the idea for the crap, seeing as we were a sewage company, but that never rolled, unfortunately. We couldn't get that to go. But we, again, though, we got help from Griffith Uni to piece this together. You know, like we made sure it was really, it wasn't just a haphazard approach to managing like hazards on site. You know, we really got the guys involved. We got our teams, our HSR teams, to actually design the questions. So you might see on the slide there the chat sort of sticker on the back of the phone. So we have put these everywhere so they're really visible. And obviously the intent is to actually get them to tell the story of the job. You know, that's what the purpose of that whole piece of work is around. So like some people don't like it, you know, it's like people just get comfortable, they like the signatures. So we're using people like Michael and Greg and the work that they're doing to show, hey, look, just because I've signed it, it doesn't mean that it's being done properly. So the challenges have been really the guys that have worked in mining and construction. You know, they all say they love it, they love the chat, but they just feel a bit uncomfortable because they're not signing something. So we've also gave them, we have created a document which is basically just the chat sort of poster there that you can sign at the bottom. But slowly but surely the guys are coming round just because we're educating them. You know, we're showing them the research, we're introducing them to guys like Michael and Greg and showing them. So it's like the guys, like I said, the lads in the field, they think it's the greatest thing that we've ever done. And if we don't do anything more in safety differently or safety too, I think we could probably dine out in this for a while, Craig. But yeah, but like we'll see how it goes. We're pretty much still in the trial for this just now, but the lads definitely do love it. Tony, have you got anything to add to that? Yeah, I know that you were heavily involved in this work as well.
There's just one thing, mate. There's nothing in the legislation that states that you need to document that risk assessment process. All the legislation states is that you need to proactively manage risk. So it's all about how you are enabling and actually boots on the ground, practically managing the risk. There's nothing in there around actually documenting that. So we sort of really leveraged off Michael Tuma there and our own interpretation of the legislation to really sort of strengthen that case for change around no more documentation. I'll just move across to our HSRs. So I'll just briefly touch on this one. So we really had to significantly change the environment that we had in place previously around our HSRs. So we had sort of a token 1 hour meeting every month, you know, pretty varied attendance, and we didn't really get stuck into too much around what they were actually doing out at site. So there's been really a big change has actually been to get them off the tools for a full day every month now. And what we do is split that day in half, and we do a half a day going out into the field and conducting critical control work insights and really understanding work as done against our high-risk activities through the lens of our workers. And then the other half is around review of safety management system, I guess, documentation. So we spent a lot of time reviewing our swims and any of the relevant, I guess, procedures for the work that those HSRs do. We've also embedded the learning teams approach onto these days as well. That sort of helps get us that truthful account of what actually happens at site around the work that we do. So still a work in progress, but have been a really good shift and a turning of the dial You can see sort of again here, we try and create visuals and graphics around the things that we do rather than another boring 5-page long HSR charter that no one ever wants to read. So we try and create sort of colourful posters around these things and have them up and bright and colourful and visual to try and catch people's eye. It seems to sort of work. Steve, what's happening?
I'm really mindful of time, Craig, so
Yes,
I'll sort of just
18 minutes.
race through this one really. So work insights, like the best example that we've got really is around mobile phone use in vehicles. So we had golden rules that said that you cannot use Bluetooth devices in any urban utilities vehicle. So when we done a bit of discovery, we found like that was happening a lot. People were using their phones via Bluetooth, which is perfectly legal, but we had this rule in place that said that we can't do it. So we done heaps and heaps of research into this. We're partnered with Cars Q. We've done a lot of work internally, just trying to really discover, you know, why phones need to be used. And we basically got to the stage where if we removed mobile phones from vehicles or removed Bluetooth from vehicles, we would have some safety issues, we'd have productivity issues, brand issues, and one of the most critical ones was around if there's a fire somewhere in southeast Queensland, our lads are sometimes called to those fires to help boost the pressure. So if they weren't allowed to use their mobile phones in their trucks, then we're obviously going to have a bit of an issue. So we had a trial where we actually stopped people from using their phones in the trucks, and then the other teams were allowed to, and it just created havoc. So again, we went to the SSG committee saying, look, we've got this rule here that's been created by someone, but we're not quite sure who. We weren't even sure who created it. So we're in the process now of removing not just that golden rule, we've removed a lot of them. Like, I'm happy to elaborate further on this in another session if you wish to, but basically that was one of the things that we've done. We went in, had a look at what was really work is done was like we're using phones. Work as imagined from the business was that there was no Bluetooth allowed in any vehicles. So it took a bit of time, but we got there. Tony, you want to go to the next slides, mate?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'll just add to that, mate. So yeah, we removed our 9 golden rules. We got rid of those. They were only used to copy and paste into disciplinary letters for punishment. So we removed those rules and we created 12 enterprise-wide high-risk activities to sort of ramp up our work insights approach around those. But yeah, back to you, Matt.
I'm just going to say this. This is basically the theory that we use when we discover. We go in, we conduct these little work insights, we go to the field, we ask some questions, we start collecting themes, we start collecting like the goal conflicts, then we analyse them, we really have are these genuine, are these things that we want to look at, and then obviously we put actions in against them, and then we review them. That's really as simple as that. If anybody's looking, like we often hear people saying, "Oh, what can we do in safety?" Our company doesn't really believe in safety differently or safety 2 or whatever. Work insights is probably the easiest thing that you can start. Just discovering the work as imagined, and then what really happens in the field, for sure.
Yeah, so the main, I guess, just adding to that, mate. So the main, I guess, change for people conducting these is actually not to be putting down your descriptor of the work getting done. It's actually just capturing the story of the worker. So what's their version of how they get that particular job done. So really honing in on what they're kind of describing around complexity and variability and just focusing on that sharp end rather than anything to do around a predetermined view about how work gets done. We've basically wrapped the HOT principles around our work insights and learning teams approach. So error is normal, blame fixes nothing, systems drive behaviour, learning is vital, and response matters. So we spend a lot of time in our Safe Simple leadership program sort of educating leaders around what this looks like. All right, so learning teams. So we had to we had to change the way that we investigated health and safety events. So previously we were using ICAM or Taproot in our organisation to investigate things that went wrong, so injuries, errors, near misses. In saying that, the level of investigating was quite inconsistent here. So we had to move away from using those methodologies and frame up this approach that aligns more with the Safety 2 thinking. So this learning teams approach, we've had some really great support from Mark Alston from Emotus Consulting. He's really helped us shape up our approach to kind of learning from normal work. So the major benefit of a learning team approach is that it does start with and focus heavily around what actually normally happens around that particular task. So if we're talking about excavation and trenching, let's talk about normal work. What does that look like for you guys when you are excavating and trenching? We don't go to the event itself in that first learning team. We want to seek to understand normal work. So you spend a bit of time in that space to really understand it before at a secondary session moving into the actual event itself to learn about the work as done in that space. Look, the main thing I love about learning teams is it's the same experience for the workers, for the sharp end, where you're doing a learning team on a post-job review. You might be doing a learning team on some of the challenges that they're experiencing with the work that they do. You might do a learning team on an error that's occurred, or you might do a learning team on an injury that's happened. Every single time a learning team is run, it is the same experience for the people coming in, and they know that it's a safe space free of blame. So it really has opened up the conversation, and we sort of learn a lot about what people are faced with. So that subject of excavation and trenching, we facilitated a learning team recently around that, and we really opened up a whole bunch of, aspects that the guys are faced with when they're doing their work. Things like the challenges around getting shoring boxes to help shore up a trench once it goes beyond 1.5 metres. There's a lot of travel time. It can be up to 2 hours to get a shoring trailer from one of the depots. So looking at adding in more accessibility for shoring trailers moving forward. Really unpacked actually a lot of the pressures around the KPIs that the guys are faced with to try and get water back on for our customers, and really unpacked some of the things that they're faced with in that space. Sort of the difficulty around making jobs compliant can increase the amount of complaints that come in, based on the fact that the longer that water's off, the more complaints that come in on social media and phone calls around no water coming through. So it's sort of, we got a whole, we could probably spend a couple of hours talking about that particular learning team itself, but sort of really starting to get a lot of value from these learning teams. The only challenge with a learning team is you tend to get a lot of information and a lot of unanswered questions off the back of learning teams, and that's actually pretty exciting for someone who's got a curious, open mindset about wanting to learn more. But that can be challenging for people that just want an immediate root cause answer and response to that particular event. So so look, we're getting some good traction with this. It's taken sort of a couple of years just to keep refining it, getting it a little bit more rigor around it, generating some good actions off the back of them. But I think we're in a pretty good space now in terms of what we're getting out of them. Steve, anything you want to add on that? I'll jump over to the last slide.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, if you're going to run learning teams, guys, you sort of need to be prepared to hear bad news, and you'll definitely hear scary stories. So how you respond to those stories really, really matters. I can guarantee it's going to happen. And just like Tony said, the only criticism I have of the learning teams is, well, not me, but I've heard it, is it will leave you with more questions. And for me, that's brilliant. It just means more learning teams. Craig, I'm really mindful of time as well. So,
yeah.
do you want
to just do this last slide, and then I'll ask these final questions that people have got. So, people, please get your questions in now. We'll just answer this last slide, and then we'll get into some good questions people are firing at you here. So.
Yeah, look, I'll just run through. We had a list of 20 things that we've done, but I'm just going to pick off some of the real big ticket items that we've done that as part of our changes at urban utilities. So we removed zero harm slogans from the business. We took them away. They introduced work in sites of normal work and work in sites of critical controls. Anyone can do that. I would definitely recommend that. And look, I've got a big list here, sorry, I'm just sort of looking through it. And it's like introduced learning teams as part of investigation and removed ICAM and Taproot. So I am ICAM trained. I have done a lot of ICAM investigations over the years. But once I discovered learning teams, and this probably maybe about 3 or 4, maybe even longer, years ago, I just couldn't go back and do an ICAM report again. I couldn't issue the controls around some of the root cause analysis stuff being like procedure was wrong, supervision or training. The learning teams have really opened that up. Over to you, Tony, for some of your list.
Yeah, just some of the other things that we've done. We thought we'd just quickly rattle off a couple of things to finish off. So we've completely overhauled and simplified our hazard reporting process. We've done the same with our incident reporting form. We've removed the paperwork with risk assessments with the introduction of the chat. We've removed a lot of duplicate documents from our safety management system. We've aligned our lockout tagout procedure to work as done. We're doing the same with our permit to work approach. We've removed our 9 golden rules, as I said earlier. We've removed reporting around LTI and TRIFR, and we're now focusing on the critical controls of our high-risk activities. We've introduced intuitive Power BI dashboards around learning teams, around our work insights. We've removed blame language in the provisions of our code of conduct. We've changed the way that our leaders respond to error, which has been really, really important. And I guess we haven't really talked about it today just based on time, but we've got the health and wellbeing arm of our strategy as well. So focusing on better job design, focusing on better spaces to work in, financial wellbeing, mental health, and a truckload more in that space as well. We've been sort of really busy with sort of 2.5 years into our 3-year strategy now. So about to move into the space of rewriting what are we going to head into next, starting next year. But yeah, I'm interested now if there's any questions that people wanted to pose.
Rightio, thanks. That's absolutely brilliant. Steve says, fantastic webinar. Lots of great, refreshing ideas, certainly aligned with the direction I want to go. Great work, guys. So pat yourselves on the back there. One from Andrew. These questions, you could talk for an hour on each of these questions. So if you can just give me like a 1-minute thing on these next 4 questions, that would be great. Andrew's asking, how do you measure improvements to engagement and safety practices generally? So how do you measure them?
Yep, so we introduced an annual decluttering survey. So we've got at the end of every year, we've got measures in place to look at getting our workers to respond to a series of questions to look at, are the changes having an impact on them? So are they feeling that the things that we're doing are helping their safety of work more? So we do have that annual, I guess, measure and survey in place. But we've also got our evaluation piece as part of our project planning process. So our change management plans, once we've implemented, we do go back and we use our health and safety assurance framework to basically evaluate the effectiveness of any of those change pieces.
Right.
Also, just on that, the easiest way that I tell people talk to me. People come and like I can go to toolbox talks and tools and these operational meetings, and people will talk to me about safety issues. And for me, that's the big thing. People will want to come and talk to you and just tell you what's happening around the place.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
So for me, that's a big shift.
Question from, this is an interesting one from Steve. Are you accredited to Federal Safety Commission? And if so, are they okay with you removing all these documents and forms? You're probably not Federal Safety, but you may have accreditations to other standards.
No, we don't. We have 45,001.
Right.
So remember, the documents that we removed are not legally required.
Sure.
Yeah, like they're the ones that we particularly targeted. Yeah, we're not. Like, even the documents that are legally required, like SWIMs, we chopped them and changed them and made them fit for purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, we're lucky that some of the regulators are actually jumping on board with the Safety Differently movement as well over in Australia. So, particularly in South Australia, Queensland.
Yeah, we've got a room upstairs, and I frequently invite them to some of the things that we do. We've got a good relationship with those guys.
Sure. I've got a question here from Irania that I think I'll answer for you. Could you send through information on the consultants that supported you with this great work? So my suggestion there is I think you connect through LinkedIn with Steve and through Tony and ask these questions through there. That's how I got a hold of Steve in the first place, was through LinkedIn and messaging through that. So any other questions, I think just ask through LinkedIn. Go for it. There's one here from Andrew. How do you promote sharing of learnings from the HSR learning teams?
So we use like shared operational learnings. So we'll create like a one-page sort of operational learning, and then we'll distribute that through toolbox talks, and we just encourage discussion around it. Really, that's probably the easiest answer I've got for you.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the contributions to operational learning have been a big increase in terms of just using the work insights and learning team methodologies in those full days really has opened up what we now know about how work gets done. And Steve's right, we do share that back through operational learning updates.
Excellent. I've just got one more comment because it's almost exactly 60 minutes. I've got a few comments. Fantastic webinar, guys. Brilliant. Just one comment. New Zealand, we're now at level 1 in terms of our COVID, and we've got no reported community transmission or anywhere in New Zealand. And I think the messaging that they did around that and why we did so well had safety 2 principles behind it. There was a no blame culture. The problem, one of the key messages was that people weren't the problem. People were the solution. And that was a key message that everybody got all excited about because people weren't to blame. And there was fantastic messaging around leadership and, making sure that everybody had the same message and they knew what the rules were and what they could and couldn't do. There was a few that broke the rules. So I just think why we've been successful as a country here in New Zealand. I'm sure it's the same Queensland and Australia in some of the areas there. I think some of these safety 2 principles have now become almost mainstream and they're working really well. So that was just a comment that I think sort of represents what the work you're doing is now actually being mainstreamed.
Yeah, I use safety 2 principles on my kids. So you can certainly take it on to the family for sure.
I'm getting a whole lot more questions.
We can come back.
We should bring you guys back again. You're both brilliant together. It was fantastic.
Happy to.
So maybe those insight teams or whatever work insight teams or how you do that could be a whole webinar all on its own.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
But thanks, guys. I know you were on a webinar last week. Steve, I'm sure you guys are going to be busy presenting other webinars because the stuff that you're doing now is really, really exciting and looks like you're going to make a difference to the safety industry. So well done.
Good on you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate your time. So thanks all for tuning in today. As I say, you'll all get an email with links to all the videos that we talked about, the YouTube videos, plus this video and all the slides. And as I say, if you've got any questions, send them either through to me or jump on LinkedIn, connect with these guys and ask your questions there. They're very friendly and open, and I'm sure they're happy to share their knowledge. Thanks, guys. Thanks again.
Good on you.
Good on.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.